When I did the selection preview for France this week, I said, who honestly knows? And if anyone would have picked the 23 that Galthie has picked this week, I would be absolutely stunned. Hello, amateurs, and welcome back to our Six Nations series. And I've got another great guest for you to... Oh, no, actually, just me this time. So settle in and we'll enjoy this one and get into what could be a cracking Italy-France fixture this Sunday, the Sunday game this week. Italy coming off a win, obviously that super pragmatic win against Wales where they just understood the conditions and played them perfectly, real patience, real discipline in their performance. And they were bigger winners really than the scoreline suggested, I would say. France coming in off a loss, obviously against England, although they did a lot right. They just dropped the ball a ton of times. They've made quite a few changes though. We'll get into that. I wonder whether they were because of the last time out or there's some illness, there's some injury about the French squad, but who knows? It's a very different looking team, that's for sure, in lots of ways. Okay, let's get into these selections right away. And for the Italy side, it is very much business as usual. I thought really that Quesada is building a team here that he wants to, really bed in. It's all been these guys really typically for a few seasons now as well. Some slight rotation in the front row, but the back five of the scrum has been really consistent. And yeah, it's the same guys. Basically, I've played this entire tournament, so there's not much detail to go into here. We'll talk technically and tactically what they need to do later in this video, but selection-wise, these fellas go again after a rest week. In the backs, there was just one change with Ioane out injured. So Simone Jesse comes in on the left wing. He looked lively in the opening game against Scotland before getting injured himself. And most importantly, I think for this Italian team, this Sunday against this French team, I think Menoncello and Brex are going to have to really, really play to the heights that they can, because these guys are absolute worldies, both as individuals and as a combination. And I think if Italy are going to get any joy, if they're going to get a win, they really need to trust these guys with the ball a lot more often than they have been doing so far this championship. Onto the bench, and we've got a few changes here, actually. Both props back into the matchday squad. Spagnolo after suspension and Zelocci, I think, after an injury. But both these guys, I think, are potentially starters when fully fit. I think Italy are blessed with a lot of good props at the moment, a good front rowers all round. But these guys, I'm sure, will want to be pushing for a starting spot sometime soon. Everything else remains the same. Yeah, really consistent here from the Italians. Something that we can't say about the French. Okay, forwards. Well, there is some consistency. Let's just say that. The front row and the back row, exactly the same as it has been for most of this championship. All of this championship? Yeah, I think all of it, actually. However, two new second rows. Thibaut Flamand comes back in, and as soon as they were hoping to get their number one second row partnership back together, poor Manny Miafu has been sick all week. So Guillard comes into the second row off the bench. So they can't get a break there in terms of their line-out, really. I think Flamand coming back is a massive win for them, though, in that regard. They still look big, though. They still look nasty. They still look like they've got lots of carrying power, which I think is going to be what their game plan is going to be this coming weekend. Into the backs, and this is where things get really interesting. Jalibert out. Penaud out. I think Jalibert probably got dropped, and then his mate Penaud said, right, well, if you're not playing, I'm not playing either. Atisogbe on the wing in his place. Ramos to 10 from fullback, with Leo Barre in at fullback. Suggested this might be the case. It was spoken about earlier in the tournament when Untermatt got injured. And yeah, they've gone for it. Ramos in at 10, creating the Toulouse partnership there with Dupont. And Barassi keeping his place at outside centre, even though Ficou back in the wider French squad this week. So yeah, some consistency, but I do find it very strange that they've swapped 10s again. They could have done it before. Like there were other options, but it's all a bit strange for me. It's particularly just poor Jalibert. I mean, I like I said in the selection prediction, I thought he played perfectly fine against England. I thought he did his job, but maybe France are looking for something different. And Ramos has played well at 10 for France. Like he's never, he's played well. So I can understand why they would pick him, but it just seems really hard on a very talented Jalibert. To me, delighted to see Atasogbe get another chance after his 2 tries on his debut. Is it his debut? Anyway, at the start of the championship against Wales, he looks like an absolute live wire. Will he get in the game? I'm sure he will, because I don't see France changing tactically what they're going to do. In some ways, they might just up the emphasis of it a little bit more, because Galthie has gone 7-1 on the bench, with the only back sub being Luku, who hasn't had a look in this championship so far anyway. And 7 forwards. So I don't know. I guess he just wants to go and beat the Italians up. He just wants to make them tackle all day long and try and do it against these enormous French forwards that just will carry and carry and carry. And I think we're just going to see the tactics they used against Wales in the opening game, where very little structure. You won't see much shape out of this French team when they're in phase play. Just be Dupont taking the ball, having a little look. If there's nothing on for him, he'll give it to a forward, or he'll give it to the forward early. Just use the size and the strength that they've got, the footwork, the ability for these huge men to gain a yard here or there, and just keep doing it until they either go through the line and then they'll flood and offload and flood and offload, or until they've narrowed the defense up, and then you'll likely see 1, maybe 2 quick passes, or even more likely a kick pass from either Dupont or Ramos out to the wings, who are just going to be stood in acres of space in that situation. How do the Italians stop that happening? Well, it's going to be tough, because these French guys are huge and they are all very good at taking the ball forward, and they're happy to do it time after time after time. However, I think the Italians could be one of the best equipped teams to deal with this, because they're tackling, and I've noted it in previous videos, this Six Nations, particularly the front rowers, is so aggressive. It's so like chop, get him to the ground. Negri's the same. He does that as well. And if they can get enough of those hits in, and it will take a lot, they're going to have to do it all day, because once the French get the ball in territory, they will carry and just play and play and play. They've got no issue with that at all. So that's going to be the battle. Can the Italians chop them down often enough, stop them, at gain line, or hopefully drive them backwards? That would be a bonus. But, I think, to be honest, the majority of the time that would be very difficult. Can they stop them at the gain and stop France getting momentum? They also, at the same time, need to not get narrowed up in defence, because as soon as they do, Dupont will spot it, or Ramos will spot it, and the ball will be gone over their heads to somebody out wide to just run in a simple try. That's what the Italians need to do to stop the French. What do they need to do to get some points themselves? They've been quite pragmatic so far. They've only played when they've got into territory. And as such, they've looked a little bit stunted. They've looked a little bit not their usual slick selves. Been glimpses of it, little moments. Menoncello's had his moments. Brex has had his moments. But they haven't really got the back three into the game on a consistent basis. The weather is looking like it's going to be good this weekend in Rome. I think if Italy really want to win this game, I think they have to not resort, that's the wrong word. They have to go a little bit more attacking than they have been so far this tournament. I think they need to challenge the French defence, which has been found wanting a little bit through the centres. Let's not forget, England went through there a couple of times to great effect. They need to go and challenge them there, because Brex and Menoncello are 2 of the very best in the world at doing that. And if they can get through that line, then they've got finishes as well. So that's going to be the challenge. Can they stop France doing what they want to do? And can they find that fluidity of last year or the year before, even, when they were just attacking from everywhere and causing teams all kinds of problems? That's the game, folks. That's what it's all going to be about, I think. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about that 7-1 bench? What's going to happen if one of those 3/4 gets injured in the first couple of minutes, or even in the first half? It could cause France all kinds of problems. I've mentioned before that, a lot of their players can play in multiple positions, and obviously Dupont can probably play in most of the positions in the backs and probably the forwards as well. But, if they lose 2 backs, then it's going to be problems, because there's not many of those forwards, I don't think. No, just running through them in my head now. There's not many that could go and stand in on the wing convincingly, I don't think. They've had them before, but not in this current squad. So anyway, let me know in the comments below and I'll join you there for a friendly conversation. Give this video a thumbs up while you're down there. If you don't mind, it helps other people find it, and you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next, and do not forget to get out and play.